Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Masters of Science in Applied Psychology Live Alumni Spotlight webinar, presented by the University of Southern California. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Gina Chang, and I am an enrollment advisor on the program, and I'll be your host. Before we begin, please refresh your browsers and turn up the volume to hear the audio. Use the media player to control volume or pause the presentation if viewing on demand. If you have technical difficulties or questions for our panelists, please send them through the Q&A box. Here's a quick look at what we'll be covering. First, we'll hear from Program Director, Dr. Ellen Leggett, who will share a little bit about her background and serve as a moderator for today's discussion. Then our special guest speaker, 2015 alumna, Charita Hill-Avent, will share her unique USC student experience and talk about the impact the Masters of Science in Applied Psychology degree has had on her career. After a brief program overview by Dr. Leggett, I'll go over admission requirements and important dates and deadlines. We'll end a brief Q&A session. Student Program Advisor Annie Cho and I will answer as many as time allows. Now let's get started. Hello, Dr. Leggett. Thank you for joining us today. Please share a little bit about yourself with our audience.
Thank you, Gina, and thank you all of you who have logged on to join us today. We're really glad to have this opportunity to talk to you about our, well, what we feel is a very unique and special program. Myself, I have joined USC and this program 3 years ago as the director, and I actually am returning to academia after a 20-year career applying psychology in the business world. I had started my career as a professor, then was wooed away by what was then a very new field, applying psychology specifically in the legal arena. And I've worked all over the country for the past 20 years, assisting trial lawyers and corporations in anticipating jury needs when they face trials. So I've specifically been at the table with corporate lawyers and business executives when they're in a very stressful situation. Nothing a company wants to be facing is a jury trial, that's for sure. But it's been a very exciting career, and 3 years ago, I was asked to come back to USC in order to take up the directorship of our Applied Psychology Master's program. And it's been a really thrilling opportunity to have the chance to shape this program. In my academic area, in my work that I did as an academic and in my work at Harvard, I've studied specifically motivation and personality, and one of the books that you'll be reading in this program is a book based on research that I've done. And I think at this point I'd like to turn it over to Gina and our guest.
Thank you, Dr. Leggett. Now I'd like to welcome Charita. Thanks so much for joining us today. Will you please be able to share a little bit about your background with our audience?
Sure. Thanks, Gina, and I'm excited to be here today. As Gina said earlier, I am a 2015 graduate of the USC program in Applied Psychology, the online program. I'm currently a finance executive for a biotech company in South San Francisco, California, called Genentech. My specific area of focus is oncology and managed care and reimbursement and pricing strategies. I've been in the healthcare industry for approximately 15 years and also have experience in high tech and investor services. I am married, I have one son, and I reside here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Thank you, Charita. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Leggett.
Great. Actually, what I'd like to do now is just have a conversation with Charita so that we can give you all on the webinar here a little flavor for what it's been like for one of our graduates to go through the program. As you've heard, Charita has a very busy career, a very busy life. And Charita, I'm interested in knowing, did you have any previous online learning experience before you came to this program?
Actually, no. I did not have any online experience prior to enrolling in the program.
So what was the reason for you to choose to enroll in the online program here at USC?
The main reason was flexibility. So prior to, after I made the decision that I wanted to go back to school to pursue a applied psychology degree, I did a lot of research in terms of finding that specific university that would allow, one, flexibility in terms of with my career, all the volunteer activities, and with my family. And when I did the research, USC actually came up as having an online program. So to have the flexibility to be in an online program was very helpful at that time during having a very busy career and family.
So you were one of our pioneers in the online program. I know we were. The online program is also still developing, but your involvement early on was really crucial to helping us pave the way. So thank you for being willing to jump in to do something new. How were you able to balance work, life, and your studies, given how busy you are in your career and with your other obligations?
So one of the things about being in an online program is that you also have a lot of flexibility in determining how you're going to get your assignments and everything done. And the way that I was able to do it was find different times during the day, during the weekend, where I would be able to complete my assignments. And because you're online, you don't have to specifically be in the same place all the time. So I took advantage of the commuting hour, the hour to and from work, during the evenings, a couple of hours, even during lunch sometimes I would be able to do work. So the flexibility of having an online program allows you to get a lot of things done.
You made good use of every minute, it sounds like.
Every minute. Yeah.
If I recall, it's nice to kind of have this chance to reflect with you. I know how busy you were as a student, and you got all of your work done. There is no doubt about that. And Charita, how was your experience with other students in the program? Did you feel that you got to know other students with everyone being spread all over the country and being as busy as you were?
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked about the cohort program was that you interacted with your fellow classmates basically at least 2 to 3 times a week, and you were able to do that via Google Hangouts, Skype. We spent a lot of time on the phone, text, email, and it actually felt just like being in a regular full-time program if you were attending school in a live classroom environment. Prior to USC, I also attended an MBA program full-time where I went to the university, stayed on campus or whatnot. But it actually felt the exact same way. Although you didn't really see your classmates as much in the USC program, you still had a lot of interaction with them. So they're very comparable.
That's interesting. The wonders of our virtual world. Even in your work, I think I remember that you do a lot of work virtually.
I do. I do spend some time traveling a lot, and because I support our commercial marketing organization, we have a lot of employees who are out in field sales. So the main way for us to communicate with people all over the country is via WebEx, via Skype, a lot of the video conferences. So it's pretty much the exact same way with the USC program.
That's really great to hear. So the tools that you learn as an online student just in managing the virtual technology are actually tools that translate into today's business world. That's a really interesting comment. Thank you, Charita. I wanted to ask you about your experience with faculty. Obviously, the faculty, some of them are here in Los Angeles, but others are in other parts of the country. What was your experience with them?
I would have to say one of the highlights of the program for me was the faculty in the program, and it was also another reason why I selected the USC program. The faculty, not only are they faculty at USC, but they are also practicing within a lot of the things that we do within applied psychology. So they're industry professionals, they have a lot of experience, and they bring a lot of interesting theories and concepts to the classroom environment. And you also have access to them all the time. So it felt basically like you're the only one in the classroom. You had access to them. You could send email. You could call them. You could have conference calls with them. And they were they had open door policies as well. So it was a great experience dealing with the faculty.
That's great to hear. I'm looking at this picture up on the slide, and just to comment here, the faculty member over at the right is Dr. Samantha Breutman. Was she involved in any of the classes that you took?
Yes, Dr. Breutman actually taught a couple of the classes that I had, and one of my favorite classes, of course, is the group dynamics class that she actually taught. Great industry experience as well. She brought a lot of things to the classroom environment. And I would have to say a lot of the things I did learn from Dr. Breutman I'm actually using here at Genentech, and also doing a lot of great facilitation and training as well. So very much appreciative of what she brought to the classroom.
That's great to hear. And I know that class, Group Dynamics of Leadership, was is a very challenging class. Was she also, if I recall, involved in the work that you did for your capstone treatise, Charita?
Yes, she was actually my second faculty advisor on my capstone treatise project, and she brought a lot of value there.
Yeah. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you did for your capstone treatise project?
Yeah. So one of the things here at Genentech that we've decided to do was really train our executives on specific human behavior and coaching skills. And when they found out that I was in the USC program and I needed to do the capstone project, our management here thought this would be a great project for me to actually work on. So I actually designed and facilitated the training here of approximately maybe 20 plus 30 executives. And I actually wrote my treatise on the specific project that I actually worked on here at Genentech.
And Dr. Breutman was very involved in that, as I know I was, and it was a great experience for us to be able to see how you were applying your work here at school to the very specific tasks you had in your career as well. That leads me to ask a little bit more about how the program has really changed your outlook about your career or impacted your professional career at this time.
Yeah, I think going into the program, I specifically had an idea of going into our organizational psychology department here at Genentech. But having been in the program, there were so many different areas of specifically HR and marketing where you can use the applied psychology skills. So what I'm doing right now is meeting and having a lot of different career conversations, working on many different projects to hone in on exactly that one particular area that I really want to work in. And the beauty of that is that you get to work on many different projects, many different strategic goals to help the company. One of the things that I'm working on right now is developing a strategic talent development and recruiting process for our diversity and inclusion group. We have a couple of programs that we're working on. We're going to be traveling in April to roll out these specific programs, but these are things that I'm working on to try to hone in on exactly what I specifically will be going into in the upcoming future.
As you look back on the program from this vantage point, what stands out for you as some of the highlights of the program, now that you're a little bit away from it, a little bit removed?
The things that stand out for me is I would go back to the faculty again, and also my cohort, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but the faculty really brought a lot of great materials, theories, and concepts to the classroom environment. And, I find myself applying all those things on a day-to-day basis. And that is one of the things that I find as being like the key highlight of the overall program is being able to obtain an education and having that almost one-on-one dialogue with the professors and being able to apply a lot of the different concepts to what you're working on. And also in your personal life, a lot of the concepts are very applicable. In terms of the cohort, I met a lot of great people. I still keep in contact with everyone that was in my cohort. And just being able to bounce different ideas. Everyone had a totally different background than I did. So my background is business and finance, but there were educators, there were folks with psychology backgrounds, HR background, and just the diversity of everyone in the program really made it fun and very dynamic.
I think that clearly that mirrors what my own observations are about the cohorts that we bring in the online program. Some people are very young, coming straight out of their undergraduate program, and I would say probably you met some people who were at a very different point in their career than you were. Would that be correct, Charita?
That's correct. Yeah, we had folks who were in many different stages of their career.
And if I could ask you to talk about one other experience that I know you had, I believe that you actually partnered up with another student in order to carry out your internship, professional development activity, and I wondered if you would talk a little bit about that and what her background was, because it was quite different from yours.
Yeah, exactly. So as a part of another project that I worked on, and I'm actually still working on the project, is taking a look at how you can actually intertwine human behavior and financial aspects of how people behave with money. And so one of the individuals in my cohort has very creative, very innovative, excellent marketing, social media skills, and those are all the skills that I really needed to have within launching this specific project that I'm working on. And so I tapped into her, I reached out to her, she was very happy and willing to help out. But those are the things that when you work with your cohort, you'll find out that there are many different people, regardless of where they are within their career, that have such different backgrounds that, once you bring everyone together, things just really work out. And just having her as a part of my team was really amazing. Very innovative ideas and things that I knew that I wouldn't have not been able to accomplish if it wasn't for her.
That was a really fun experience for both of you, and kind of an innovative way for the program to meet the needs of two very different students. Yes. Do you still stay in touch, by the way?
Actually, I am reaching out to her because probably within the next couple of weeks, because I'm in the second phase of my overall project, so I'm going to need to borrow her services again.
Well, that's good to hear. All right, Charita, is there anything else you'd like to add? This has been a really fun trip down memory lane for me. I'm really grateful to you for taking the time to join us here today. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, as I was reminiscing over the program, I mean, it was really, truly a wonderful experience, and I would have to say thank you to you, Dr. Leggett, as well, for all of the assistance and guidance that you provided. So much appreciated.
Thank you. That's just great to talk to you, Charita. Should we talk a little bit more, Gina, about what the program actually entails at this point?
Absolutely. So allow me to give you a brief overview of the program. First, we do require an internship, which is basically your professional development experience, learning opportunities that allow students to put their knowledge and skills in the real-world organizational situation. That is tied in with your capstone treatise, which is focused examining your specific chosen area of applied psychology. Following that would be your elective courses. You could choose electives that best fit your career goals, as well as the curriculum, basically the innovative contemporary coursework in organizational and consumer psychology. You do have support through not only the faculty, but as well as the student support staff and your enrollment advisors.
And Jean, if I could add here, you heard everyone on the call here today, you heard Charita speak about her internship, which is basically the project that she spoke about doing with one of her cohort members. They developed a business plan together and were working on developing a marketing plan for a new enterprise that Charita has in mind. You also heard Charita talk about her treatise capstone project, which was what she did at her current employer, doing a new project. And as to elective courses, she mentioned the Group Dynamics and Leadership course with Dr. Breutman. That was one of her elective courses. Just wanted to kind of tie that back to what you've already heard her describe. Thanks, Gina.
Well said. Thank you so much, Dr. Leggett. So what I like to do is go over the admission requirements. The first step would be to start your online application. What we would need is evidence of your degree from a regionally accredited institution, transcripts from colleges and universities attended to conduct a GPA evaluation. We do require a GRE test score, followed with 3 letters of recommendation, your personal statement of purpose, as well as your professional resume or curriculum vitae. Please contact your enrollment advisor to begin your application in further details.
Yeah, and Gina, I'd just like to add there that, that list of things that are required. We read every application with every single thing that you submit. It's a holistic review of the entire file, looking for what your stated goals are and whether your career goals will match what we think we can offer in this program. I mean, you heard Charita describe her goals for the program as trying to find a bridge from her financial work into more organizational consulting and change work, and even some of her diversity work now. But we look at everything. So because the program is so unique, we're really looking to see whether we think you can bring something to the program that will help even the other members of the cohort, and whether we feel that the professors have and the courses have things to offer you given your goals.
Exactly, yes. Now I would like to share some important dates and deadlines. We are now accepting applications for the summer and fall of 2016 term. Here are a few dates to keep in mind in order to meet the application deadline requirement. For the summer 2016, our application deadline falls April 15th. Our fall 2016, our application deadline falls August 5th. And spring, our application deadline falls November 18th. Now what I like to do is program advisor Annie Cho and I would like to answer any questions. Please go ahead and submit your questions. Type it into the Q&A box. If we don't get to your questions today, one of us will follow up with you directly. So one of the questions, it says, if you're working while in the program, can you apply that to your internship class? Absolutely.
Okay, that's an interesting question. The internship, for people who are already working, the way that we think of the internship is really that it's a professional development opportunity that takes you above and beyond your everyday work. And, I think that we fall short of just saying, if you're working, that's enough, because we hope that everyone in the program is trying to do some movement forward in their lives, in their personal growth, in their career growth. And that if you just continue doing your job as you've always done it before, you're not having that opportunity to grow. And this is, after all, what school is about. So with USC standing behind you, what we urge students who are working to do is to talk to their employers about other opportunities to stretch and grow. Charita, do you want to say a little bit about how that worked for you? I know you ended up doing that for your capstone treatise, but what was your perspective on the opportunities afforded and the requirements for the treatise and for the internship?
Yeah, so I think just to echo some of the comments that Dr. Leggett just mentioned, that you know, when you think about doing your capstone and your treatise project, if you are working, you kind of want to do something that's really a little bit different than what you're working on in order to kind of like make use and apply all the different things that you are learning in the USC program. And I think that's kind of like one of the things that if you take a look at the project that I worked on, even though it was, you know, at my company and I was working on it, it was something that was totally different than my normal job in finance. It was really much more of coaching and HR related, totally using a lot of the concepts learned in the program, and also working with folks who are outside of my normal day-to-day activities. So I think just, you know, kind of like thinking differently on how you can use the skills and concepts that you've learned to bridge yourself into, whether it's a new career. For me, that's where I'm bridging to, or to advance yourself to another role or to a different department within your company. But those are some of the things to keep in mind when you're really thinking about the capstone internship and the project and all those things. What are you going to do differently versus what you're doing in your current role, and try to make use of those concepts that you're learning.
Yeah, thank you. We've had students do really interesting things at their current place of employment, and that doesn't always work out, but if you are full-time employed, it is one of the first places that we ask you to consider and to brainstorm with your employers about. What other questions do we have?
So one just came in. Can you please share information about a few of the key textbooks and theoretical frameworks that are used in the program?
Well, I'll talk about one, and I'll ask Charita maybe if she has a favorite as well. But I mentioned that one of the books that's read in the program is a book based on work that I did when I was at Harvard, and that book is called Mindsets, and its author is Dr. Carol Dweck, who's a professor now at Stanford. She was at Harvard when I was there, and she was my dissertation director and professor at Harvard. But many years later, fast forward, she's written a book for the general lay audience, for the public. It's not an academic book, but it is applying all of the work that we've done for the last 20 years or more on motivation. And she has chapters in there devoted to business, to athletics, to raising families. And this concept of mindset, whether you are a growth mindset-oriented person or a fixed mindset person, is something that we set up early in the program and is referred to throughout the program. So that's, of course, one of my favorites. But what, Charita, might you add as something that stands out in your memory as a concept or book that was important to you?
Yeah, the mindset actually comes to mind too. That was one of my favorite as well. We also spent some time doing conflict mediation and resolution. So that was we had a guest speaker come in and talk about that. So that one comes to mind as well. We also went through different types of leadership styles, and I'm not going to go into the specific concepts, but just highlight some of the things that we did. So we talked about the different types of leadership styles, change management styles. We spent quite a bit of time on emotional intelligence. Also, we did facilitation and training, performance management, and also another interesting course that I remember is the psychology of interactive media. How does the interactive media, TV ads, television ads, affect the overall human behavior? So those are some of the things at a very high level that that really come to mind when I think about some of the things that we've done in the program. But all very, very interesting concepts, all also very, very relevant as well.
Great. Thanks, Charita. And by the way, Charita, your primary interests were on the organizational side, but you've made reference to some of the courses that were actually on the consumer psychology side, and the psychology of interactive media was primarily on the consumer side. But the books that we're reading on the consumer side now, we have incorporated into the program a book about the history of the company Lego. Any of you who have memories of playing with Legos as a kid or are parents and have kids playing with Legos now, we actually read a book about that organization and its challenges and the changes that they went through, which mostly involved identifying what children want to play with now on the consumer side. Their primary consumers are children, and to know what the psychology was of children today compared to what it was when the company was founded entailed a re-engineering of their mission, their strategy with the toys, and ultimately the organization itself. So we do read that, and that has become a new classic in the program, I think, since you were in the program, Charita. What other questions do we have?
I actually have a question that was for Charita. How do you discuss this degree with colleagues on your resume? Their concern is that the title of the degree may not clearly communicate the skills developed by the program.
Oh, that's a great question. So I think it really depends on which area that you're trying to go into, and I find that when I have the degree listed on my resume, I also list the concentration of the area of focus. And a lot of my colleagues here, and even all of the executives that are in our human resource area, are very familiar with the applied psychology degree. And it doesn't come across as, what does that mean or how do you apply it? But applied psychology is something that you can apply in many different disciplines. So I have not had an issue with that. But one of the things that I do list is my concentration on the degree. And I have organizational psychology listed as my concentration. But I've had some really interesting conversations on the degree when I'm talking with people about it, and they're always very interested to find out, what are you covering this week in class, or how can we apply some of the concepts that you're learning into our organization. So people have really been fascinated by me pursuing the overall degree, but I think you'll be fine. Just make sure you kind of list the concentration that you're focused on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a great suggestion, Charita, and it's certainly one of the things that we recommend to all students in the program as well, that you identify applied psychology with the kind of interests that you have, even if it's listing coursework or describing that your interest is consumer psychology, organizational psychology, or many students list both. They say emphasis in consumer and organizational psychology, and there it is. So it's a door opener, and you get to explain what's unique about our program. We do, by the way, ask you to update your LinkedIn profile within the first couple of weeks of one of our classes, and that is a topic of discussion. How do you put onto your LinkedIn profile and your resume subsequently information about what you're doing now in this program? So we don't leave that up to chance.
Wonderful.
What other questions do we have?
A question came in. Do you think a graduate of this program could also work in IO consulting?
IO consulting, industrial organizational consulting, absolutely. That is exactly what Charita is talking about. It's exactly what our faculty, Dr. Breutman's background is in organizational psychology. That's what many of the graduates seek to do. IO stands for, some of you who may not know that term, industrial/organizational psychology. IO psychology there are some programs that are specific to that, and they would potentially be, many of them are 2-year programs if you were to go full-time on campus. Our program is different in that we extract many of the key principles, but we merge with it more research, we merge with it the consumer psychology as well, because we feel there are many similarities, and that knowing consumer psychology will only help in your ability to communicate with employees as well. We basically think of this program as a focus on where psychology can be used internal to an organization, which is the organizational focus, or external to an organization, which is the consumer focus. Great question, though.
Great. And we have a question. What can a potential student do now to prepare for successful matriculation through the program, regardless if they have a business/psychology background?
I'm going to ask first Charita that, because you came in without a psychology background and with a business background. What would you recommend to people who may have not a psychology background, Charita? And then I'll speak to the psychology part of it.
I would say for me, just thinking about, my background and coming into the program, not having a psychology background was not something that really kept me from learning. Overall, I was very excited about all the new concepts that I was learning, and I think, having a psychology background is not something that you need to go into the program, because the program is designed in a way where you're actually able to really apply all the things that you're learning in your day-to-day life, your work environment, into the program. We had a lot of live discussions, a lot of homework assignments on, taking some of the concepts that you learn in the program and trying to apply it to your day-to-day work environment or your personal life. So I would have to say that having a psychology background is not a deterrent, but is, just coming into the program and being open to learning new concepts is something that one should be very open-minded about.
I think that the background in psychology can be extremely helpful, because we do, as Charita, you may recall, a lot of reading of primary source academic psychology research articles. And clearly, if you've got some experience doing that, you're going to have a leg up. The additional area that you might want to brush up on is statistics, because we do, I think, increasingly in the program put an emphasis on gaining research skills, both quantitative and qualitative. But I think finally the most important thing is to just stretch your own ability to think about new career areas and be willing to explore the kind of fields where psychology can go in the future. One thing that this program is not is a blueprint how to do a specific job. It is, this is a top university, and it's not so much a job training program as it is a giving you tools to learn and tools to advance your career through your own incorporation of what you're learning. So being creative about what things you might want to do in your career in the future would be a good way to spend some time preparing for this program.
Thank you, Dr. Leggett. We do have another question that came in regarding the internship or professional development aspect. Does USC provide different companies that are looking for interns, or do we need to go through different companies and find them on their own?
Yeah, that's a great question, too. I think there are two answers to that, in addition to what you've already heard about first base. First thing we always do is refer students, if they're employed, to look closest to home first. But the other two answers are dependent upon where you live in the country. If you live in Los Angeles, the resources of the the Career Center are very useful, and the Career Center posts jobs in the Los Angeles area all of the time, and you can go online and search for those jobs. And many of our students in the Los Angeles area, whether they're on campus or online, have found their internship opportunities through SC Connect, it's called. If you are not in the Los Angeles area, there are also websites that the Career Planning Office makes available through the career services here, and those are other search engines and career aggregators that find and make public internship opportunities. But the students in the online program, no matter where they are, seem to be incredibly resourceful, and they have come up with opportunities that are extremely creative. We have one current student who was actually taking a break in her career who found an internship opportunity to go to Thailand, and she is right now in Thailand studying or actually doing web development and social media for a nonprofit in preservation of reforestation and elephants. But that's kind of an extreme example of what you can do with this internship, and USC, had nothing to do with her finding that. So wherever you are in the country, or indeed the world, I think that your local resources can be very helpful, and finding things in Minnesota, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in China, these things have happened, and it's not because the faculty here have connections or the USC has a list and says, here, pick one of these. It's because students have broad interests and they find ways to meet them with our support.
Thank you, Dr. Leggett. Let's take one more question. We have someone who's interested in learning more about career opportunities and employee wellness and how this program would help prepare them for the pursuit in the past.
The question was a career in the wellness field. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. That's a really good question, because I think the same could be said for the entertainment field or the technology field, because this program doesn't train you for a field as much as it trains you with skills that are applicable to any field. Any organization or any business has employees, and they pretty much all have consumers or clients. And in the wellness field, patients would be considered clients, for example, and doctors and healthcare staff would be considered employees. So any wellness organization or medical facility would have need of people who are attuned to employee needs, and they would also have needs for people who are externally focused marketers. And thus, people from our program have found those kind of opportunities in the wellness and healthcare field, as they have in almost any field you can name, where the list gets longer and longer of what kind of field students are entering. As long as you've got that psychology background with an ability to focus and articulate how you can meet needs of the consumers, whether they be patients, I consider jurors my consumers, or employees, then you've got a career opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Leggett. Well, in respect to everyone's time, I wanted to remind everyone that if we didn't get to your questions today, one of us will follow up with you directly. I wanted to thank you, everyone who participated today. If you have any additional questions or may think it's time to apply, please reach out to myself or Annie Cho. Our contact information is on the screen. This concludes today's webinar, and thank you again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you all very much.